Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to let you all in now. Bear with me just a second. Admit all. Great stuff. Can you all hear me now?
We can.
You can. From what I can see, so some of you are still on mute, and that is because you have, what is it? You didn't log in with the email that I sent the invite with, i.e. you don't have a Microsoft Teams with that. So maybe next time, if you can let me know which is your email that you have for Microsoft Teams, that would be great. So now, who we got? Okay, we've only got one left, and that is Jagdeep. I think he's back in now. Let me see. Admit all. Right, who we got? Make Jagdeep a presenter. So we've got how many presenters? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, perfect. All right. This cough of mine, but can everyone hear me? Mike, Jennifer, Martin, Jagdeep?
We can, yeah.
Perfect.
You can. Very good. Brilliant. Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining me, or joining us rather. This is a startup product and tech Q&A. It's our 137th, if I'm not mistaken, Q&A. We've been doing these for, almost 4 years now. And the idea, it's quite simple. You see, unfortunately, over 90% of startups fail. And the top 3 reasons for that are 1, market fit, 2, running out of money, sorry, and 3, not having the right people. And there couldn't be anything more important about that first part, the market fit side, than your ability to actually build your product or tech right. I've got some brilliant experts on the field with us today, both from product and tech, and they're going to take some questions that you may have. And by the way, your questions today can be on anything to do with your product and tech. It could be, let's say, your product roadmap, or perhaps your prototype, your design, your landing page, or your app, or testing, or your MVP, and anything in between or beyond for that matter. This is the place to be until 1 p.m. UK time. So we've got 56 minutes to go. The way we'll do this is go through some quick introductions from the panelists on stage, and then we'll open it for questions. Perhaps just before that, perhaps the panelists might like to think of some of their biggest do's and don'ts when it comes to early stage product and tech. If you do have any questions and you want to ask us questions, in the first instance, please put your answer in the chat. There's a chat icon, and if you can just type, sorry, not answer, what am I doing? I'm not with it today, I'm sorry. So do type your question in the chat first, please, and then I will bring you up to talk. So without further ado, my name is Anton Call. I'm an Albanian in London working with startups. Normally, right after they get investment, I embed within their teams and help them hire and keep the right people. I also do some growth advisory work, and I've lately been helping some angels and family offices with their due diligence and assessment. And I guess we'll go in the same order that we joined. So Mike, Jennifer, Martin, and then Jagdeep, please.
Sure, no problem. I'm Mike. I'm CTO at Riskica. We help people understand their risk from business to business in the Nordics. So my main office is actually in Copenhagen, but I'm in Kent. But I also founded in the past year a startup studio where we focus on building B2B SaaS. Looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Mike. Yes, Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer. I have been working in tech and cybersecurity for 19 years with companies from, I guess, startup to sort of global multinationals, I guess, too. I am the director for Ireland for WESIS, which is Women in Cybersecurity for the UKI affiliate as well.
Hi, Martin Ectus. I'm a multi-award winning innovator. I work for companies like Nokia Networks, Canonical Ubuntu, was the Chief Innovation Officer for Legal in General, and more recently I am consulting and helping companies with AI and Web3, both on the tech and the product side.
Hi, this is Jagdeep Bambra. I'm based in the UK. In terms of my background, it's 25 plus years in IT and various other industry sectors, verticals, and geographies. Run a few consultancies in the UK. In terms of what I do, I mainly work with board and C-level members of organizations of various sizes and get them to a good place. So this could be anything from improving the return on investment, reducing total cost of operations, innovation, etc. And in terms of my background and trade, in the enterprise architecture space, but I also work as a fractional CTO with a few family offices and in the health tech space as well. So that's myself.
Well, thank you very much to all of you. Really appreciate this. Now, just before we go to some of the biggest do's and don'ts that you have when it comes to early stage product and tech for startups, just a quick reminder to those of you that are tuning in via YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, or perhaps I think we might be live on Instagram too. Please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions there. So if you do want to ask us anything and basically ask us questions directly, you would need to join us interactively and live here on Microsoft Teams. On all of those platforms, there should be a link that will take you to Microsoft Teams. It's a quick registration and then you'll be able to join us. So if you do have any questions, please get them ready now. For those of you that are now here on Microsoft Teams and have got questions for us, please type your question in the chat there. And as soon as you've done that, I will then unmute you and give you the floor so that you can ask our panelists. Now, in terms of how it works today, this is product and tech, but just be aware that we run a few other topics. So on Mondays, it's talent. Obviously, today, as you can see, it's product and tech. Wednesdays, it's growth. And Thursdays, it's fundraising. We've also recently added another 2 monthly sessions. The second Friday of each month, it's a legal Q&A. And the third Friday of each month, it's a finances Q&A. Unfortunately, due to the fact that it's the end of tax year and our accountants and CFOs seem to be quite busy, we just literally last minute decided to postpone our finances. So the first one will now instead be on the 21st of February rather than Friday this week. But without further ado, perhaps we can start again in the same order that we joined. So Mike, Jennifer, Martin, and Jagdeep, what are your biggest do's when it comes to early stage building your product and tech? Mike?
Yeah, sure. So I'd say my biggest do is validate at every step of the way, especially if you're early on in building your startup. So constantly be talking to your customers, run design partner programs, whatever it may be that gets you as close to my customers as possible, so you actually build the right solution for them that they need, not something that you think they want. Be what I'd recommend.
And for me, it's there's some similarity there with regards to getting to know your customers, your potential customers. Have a good base of people that are going to be honest with you to be able to try to test your ideas in front of and see what the demand looks like and what people are likely and willing to pay for. I would also suggest that do a lot of research about what it is that you're creating and whether it already exists in the market, and if it does, what you're bringing to it that is different or better? What's your unique selling point, and really latch on to that. Having your people, your potential customers to talk to will help you understand what that might be. And in many cases, that unique selling point might be different to what you think it is, but you'll learn that from speaking to your customers as well. And doing that kind of research about other products that are out there too can help you to avoid spending a lot of money on tools and integrations and trials that you may not necessarily need. If they've done something like that already and they've trialed it and it was no good, or they do something that does work well, you'll be able to find that information out or test it yourself then too. And it can keep that kind of early budget under control as well.
Yes, so to build on what the other two have already said, once you know what the problem is, you need to fall in love with that problem and not with the solution yet. And then you need to, as fast as possible, create what I call an embarrassing prototype. So if it's not embarrassing to you when you launch it to those first initial test customers, then you're launching it too late.
Thank you, Martin. Jagdeep, are you with us?
Yes, yeah. So I would say a don't is, although I come from a technology background myself, is don't jump into technology straight away. Do your research, as mentioned earlier, but one thing also is make sure you have a very solid business plan, understand what you're developing, how you're developing, why you're developing it. And the tech is probably the easiest thing these days to make happen unless you're doing something bleeding edge or cutting edge. So I'd say do your thinking and thought, business plan, the product canvas, etc. upfront. Understand also related to that is the fact that you need to understand what it's going to cost you to run your MVP, for example, once you actually live. So don't neglect post-launch aspects such as customer support, service, and you're running an operating model as well.
Thank you very much to all of you. I really appreciate that. Right here, a quick reset before we start taking questions then. This is a startup product and tech Q&A. We do this every Tuesday from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time, where we seek to help startups like yourselves with whatever questions you may have on your product and tech journey, basically as you build your early stage. And those questions could be on anything to do with product and tech. So there are no wrong or right questions really, and there's no need to be shy. You could ask us about your product roadmap or your design or your prototype or perhaps your landing page, or how do you build your app, or maybe your testing or your MVP, and anything within that sphere really. If you are here on Microsoft Teams, all you have to do is just type the question in the chat, and then I will unmute you and give you the floor. If you are, however, tuning in via other platforms where we're live streaming now, the likes of LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, I think we might also be on Instagram, then please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions there live. So you would have to join us here on Microsoft Teams. In all of those platforms, there should be a link that takes you straight to Microsoft Teams, where after a quick registration, you'll then be able to join us. On the other hand, if you've got questions on other matters, please save them for the other rooms we run. Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, and Thursday's fundraising. We've also recently added another two, a legal Q&A every second Friday of each month, and a finances Q&A every third Friday of each month. All of these are via StartUp to ScaleUp Club, basically, and you can RSVP to any of these on our site, startup to scaleup.club. Actually, a good thing to do is to join our WhatsApp group, and there you'll get all future alerts for future events we do. Whilst we're waiting for some people to come up with questions, I'll put a question in the chat room if the team would like to have a look at it. I will read it out loud for those of you that are tuning in via other platforms. But this is from somebody in Bristol. She's a founder creating an educational app for teens with dyslexia. We've tried to design for readability, but I want to ensure our interface is accessible across all interactions. What accessibility features would you recommend focusing on first, as we probably can't afford to do them all? And how can we test that these changes genuinely support our target demographic without making the app feel overly simplified? And she's put in brackets, which I've just realized I forgot to paste here. Please be as specific and practical as you can. So perhaps this time we can start with Jagdeep, then Martin, then Jennifer, and then Mike. Your 1 minute of glory starts now, Jagdeep.
Hi. Yeah, so I think we've had a few questions previously about accessibility standards, etc. So what I'll say is, in terms of actually looking at what's the industry standard and guidelines, I would say have a look at the accessibility standards. I think from what I remember, there's a WCAG standard out there for AA, and that should help you get going. But the good thing also is you can actually get the dyslexia-friendly style guide from the British Dyslexia Association, and that will actually give you a very good guideline in terms of what you need to do for websites and for apps. And the main thing is usually things like the font, the text, layout, structure, color, and also to the other point, how do you make sure this actually works is once you've actually built a prototype or you built a potentially clickable demo or even wireframes, then it's to actually test it with an audience that represents your demographic. So that would be probably the easiest thing to do. A lot of these style guides I've used previously in terms of AAA and AA standards, and they're very, very easy to follow. Gov.uk also has a few guidelines and standards on how to actually make this happen.
Thank you, Jagdeep. Yes, Martin, and then Jennifer, and then Mike.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, we talked about this. I'm not the expert on what libraries, but I would say that you want to automate this so that every time that you add something new, it's validated that you don't add new things where you haven't applied all the accessibility features, because that's one of those things where it's easy, perhaps not for dyslexia, but for readers and so on, to forget when you add an image, a description for that and stuff like that. So all these things you can automate so that in the future you keep on being compliant, and you keep on always adding those features when you make changes.
Cool. For me, I think the thing I want to pick up on is the excuse me, is the concern about the app feeling oversimplified. I'd probably think again about that one, because for me, I'm way more willing to pay for an app that is really simple and intuitive to use than I am for one that might be shinier and fancier looking. Because that's, especially if it's for something we have dyslexia in my household, especially if it's for something that's going to help that side of things. Anything that's going to be 3 steps instead of 1, or anything that's going to mean that I need integrations, or I need a complicated logins, or anything special to be able to use it, or even just time, is a negative on my part. It should be something that's real intuitive, that you can just kind of, I don't know, whip out your phone and use it as you need, or if you have the app on your computer, you can just enable it and it does its thing. So I think for me, oversimplified would actually be a positive that I would aim for, as opposed to trying to avoid it. And yeah, that one, that was the bit probably that stuck out to me the most, is maybe just thinking about it the wrong way.
Yeah, I'd kind of agree with what Jennifer's saying there. Really go for simplified. There's a reason why simple apps generally win. Information for information's sake is actually harder for customers to actually utilize it, in this case for teams with dyslexia to actually use the app. So yeah, focus on simplified. A few more practical things. You could look at actually using iconography alongside text to help get the point across without needing to necessarily read words. And so really focusing on what can back up what you're trying to write. That will help. And then the other, just more practical, is ARIA labels. So this is how screen readers, for instance, read the platform, but that will also help you start to think about how people can tab using the keyboard through the platform that you're building, and equally how screen readers like JAWS. I did a lot of work with blind people in the past for musical software, and something that really came across through that was being really good at screen readers and how screen readers read your applications, both from a mobile and desktop perspective, will really help you with the problem you're trying to solve here, I think. And then there's things like contrast ratios that are a big factor for quite a lot of the dyslexic standards when it comes to applications.
Wow, this is pure gold. Huge thanks to all four of you. Can I ask you a favor, please, panelists? Would you mind? I've just tagged you in the live stream on LinkedIn. Would you mind, under that live stream where I've tagged you, just commenting with some of those platforms that you mentioned? Because these people, I'm not sure if they're listening to us live, so at least they can have a look at it in the replay, and they can see that on LinkedIn. But also others that may have similar issues whenever they're listening to that replay, that might help. So if you don't mind, on LinkedIn, I've tagged you in the in the live stream of this, and I'd really appreciate it if you wouldn't mind doing that. Now, once we're waiting for some other questions, we've got quite a few that was sent in to us. So I'm going to read this out loud, but you can read it in the chat as well, team. So this is from a fintech platform in Manchester. They offer APIs to connect with various financial institutions. And then he goes on to say that we're aware that the potential for data breaches, but we're also aware of the potential for data breaches through APIs. What security protocols would you recommend for protecting sensitive financial data that goes beyond what they're asking for? And should we implement an API gateway to monitor and control access effectively? Lydia, I'm going to start with Jennifer on this, if that's okay.
Sure.
And then from Jennifer, we'll go to Martin, Jagdeep, and then Mike, please.
Okay, so there's a couple of different ways you can protect your API, and the most effective thing to do is to get ahead of the release of any of the APIs and the features that you have that you want to use it for as such. So you can. There's lots of tools out there, and I'll put some links in that chat that you're talking about, Anton, with regards scanning an API or assessing an API before you release it, which should be absolutely part of your process for sure, so that you can identify where there are any shortfalls or vulnerabilities or potential risk points before you actually put it out there for anyone to test or release there. Then when you have it out, yeah, absolutely, you should use a gateway. I always think if you've got an opportunity to put a gateway in somewhere, you should use it. The only time you should consider not using a gateway if it's going to be detrimental to the purpose of the tool as such, and even then you still need to be considering what your backup security response or security implementation is going to be in that case. Because of the nature of APIs being able to, typically you'll have it open, so it allows that kind of full access read write in most cases. The risk is going to be higher, and there's more appeal in targeting an API than necessarily an end product. So yes, use a gateway if you've got the opportunity to use some kind of a central authentication server, and do that then too. And if you've got, excuse me, exchange tokens, maybe, there's other things you can put in place, but at the very minimum, I would say yes, use a gateway.
And then once you have that gateway in place, you have to configure the right authentication tokens. You have to configure things like rate limits, because one of the things that can happen is that either knowingly and on purpose or unknowingly, one of your customers has like some kind of integration that starts sending lots and lots of requests that now brings down the experience for everybody else. So if that's a denial of service attack from a bad actor or a badly written script by one of your customers, that basically brings down experience for everybody. So making sure that like you can find out that like if somebody sends incorrect data, not right tokens, sends too much requests per second, that all of these things don't affect anybody else.
Yeah, hi. So if you're dealing with financial data, you also have to be conscious that the regulatory procedures and legislation may ask you to mandate particular elements within your architecture. So these might include things like data loss protection. You might be asked to include some kind of intrusion detection system or an IPS as well. One thing I'd recommend also is that you introduce, as part of the API gateway mentioned earlier, is authentication and authorization. There's various protocols out there, OAuth, OpenID, etc. Also make sure that your data is encrypted in transport and at rest. That's again mandated in the financial sector. In terms of the approach also around data, always take the principle of least privilege, and also make sure that you're carrying out security audits and testing as part of that, the process side of things. As mentioned, keep your APIs up to date, but also make sure that if you're utilizing pre-production systems, to actually carry out your pen testing on that as well in terms of your APIs. Typically, you need a version control system as well, and if you're depending on which regulations you're adhering to and the kind of data you're working with, also make sure you have a CMDB in some shape or form, that you've got an understanding about what exactly you have in production and what versions you have. So those would be the initial ones. As part of the API gateway, typically that would also help you centralize the control of all your APIs and manage that. So that you would need, in some shape or form, a way to visualize this. So typically, in many cases, you might want to create dashboards to look at the health check of all the APIs as well. So those would be some of the recommendations.
I don't really have anything else to add here, but I'd say just taking a step back, think about where you are as a product, and implement what feels right for the level of customer base you have now, and equally exposure to your API. There's you don't have to go whole hog right now, but make sure it's locked down, and then run the necessary load testing and pen testing on what you've got to make sure that that's secure enough for now. You could spend a lot making it very, very secure, but if no one can see it, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, just to add a bit of normality back to it as well.
Thank you very much to all of you. Really appreciate that. That's some golden answers there. And hopefully some of you who send us questions, and we're thankful for it, will decide to join us live next time. You see, unfortunately, as brilliant as our panelists are, if you were here, I think we'd all have a much better time, especially as more often than not, there's always a need to ask follow-up questions. Nevertheless, we've got 31 minutes to go. So if you are tuning in via LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions there. But if you want to ask us any questions, you'll have to join us live on Microsoft Teams. It's live audio only, by the way. And the way you do that is by clicking on the link that I have put on all of those live streams. It's a quick registration, and then you can join us. As for what we're doing today, we're here to help founders with whatever questions you have as you build your early stage product or tech. And those questions could be in anything from prototype, roadmap, design, landing pages, apps, other things to do with websites, testing, launching your MVP and all that jazz, really. There are no wrong or right questions for that matter, and there's no need to be shy. All you have to do is join us live here on Microsoft Teams, type your questions in the chat, and then I'll unmute you and you can ask it to our panel. If, however, your questions today are on other matters, please save them for the other topics we cover. So we currently do 6 of those, 4 weekly: Mondays talent, Tuesdays product and tech, Wednesdays growth, and Thursdays fundraising. 2 monthly legal Q&A on the second Friday of each month, and finances Q&A on the third Friday of each month. And they're all 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. You can RSVP to any of those via our site, StartUp to ScaleUp.club. Or the best thing to do would probably be to join our WhatsApp group, and there you'll get alerts for all future rooms. Now, without further ado, as we wait for some other questions, we'll go to another one that we were sent here. Yeah. So this is from an EdTech founder. She's based in Oxford. They're at seed stage, and she was an education consultant. The problem that they're trying to sort out is developing a platform that helps students prepare for university entrance exams using personalized learning paths based on their performance. And the question she has for us is, our platform needs to generate personalized study plans based on user performance and learning speed. Should we build a custom algorithm for this or rely on open source machine learning models? What are the long-term implications of maintaining a custom algorithm, especially as the number of users and data sets grow? Oh dear. Well, I'm no expert here, but the implications is that you need money and a ton of it. But anyway, let's see what the panelists have got to say. So this time, perhaps we can start with Martin, then Jagdeep, then Mike, and then Jennifer, please. Martin?
Oh, I need the button there. Okay, so basically this is interesting. So you're looking at like personalized learning paths based on performance. Now the question here could be answered in multiple ways. So if basically the output could be text, and that could be fed to any large language model, then you don't have to go and build necessarily things yourself. You could use public APIs, ChatGPT type of things to interpret that information and come up with recommendations. That would be good as a sort of very quickly prototyping things and see if this approach works. Now, the problem with that is if this is like non-public information that needs to be private, and in that case, you could run versions of like trained LLM models that like work in a similar way as ChatGPT, have the same APIs, but basically don't like are run locally by yourself. So you don't have to go and train them from zero. That's the good part. The bad part is you do have to do some integration work on them. I'm happy to explain how that can work if they want to reach out to me, but like things like Llama from Meta come to mind, and there's ways to run that, but the question is not deep enough to give a very specific solution.
Yeah, I hear you. Please do bear in mind, if you have a question and if you want help, at least make the effort to be here. Jagdeep.
So I think based upon the question, it looks like you have done a bit of research in terms of custom algorithms versus open source. So what I'd recommend is probably do a bit of an analysis based upon your particular use cases. Again, there's pros and cons for both, using both long term. If you're creating IP in the company, it's usually custom algorithms, which is kind of the route people take, and that also allows you to kind of tailor things. There's a lot more competitive advantage and flexibility with that particular model. However, the flip side, it's longer to develop, it takes money, maintenance is difficult, and also you will need expertise to make that happen. The open source models will allow you to get to market quicker, but again, the caveat there is you've got limited customization. You're also dependent on how the open source ecosystem is evolving and updated. So you have the behest of people who actually run that particular code, or you can fork your own and then start maintaining it. So what I would say is look at the use cases in a bit more detail. You would also need to understand your long-term strategy in terms of what you want to do, particularly from a product and a business, IP, financial aspect as well, and then select a route accordingly. But I would say at a high level, custom algorithms usually are the way to go if you're going long term and you've got the time investment and the flexibility to actually make that happen. Open source obviously will get you to market quicker.
Sure.
Thank you, Jagdeep. Yes, Mark.
Sorry, yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Yeah, I think along similar lines, but they both kind of have the same problem in terms of the long-term solution here, because if you go open source, you're still going to have some kind of normalization layer on top of that you have to maintain and grow as your user set grows. The open source one is more likely to have problems as you grow because it's a generalized output, whereas the custom is more defined to your needs. Really, what you need is a blend as you move forward. But the biggest thing you need to think about is speed to market and actually validating that customers actually get more out of doing this. You might find that something very generic is all you need, and you can just get it in and kind of let it go. So just do some testing of what the open source gives you, how small that normalization layer you need on top of it is. Get it in front of a customer and see if they actually enjoy the recommendations that you're giving. I think that's the big one.
Thank you very much, Mike. Last but not least, Jennifer, please.
I actually don't think I have anything in addition to add to that. They've covered it well, and I'd only be making it up. So no. Yeah, I think it's great. I support everything that's said so far.
That's brilliant. Well, get ready for the next question then, Jennifer. We'll let you go first on that. Right, so do I need to somebody's put a question? Let's see. Let's have a look at the chat. All right, do I need to put a short synopsis of my product before asking my question? No, Joshua, you don't. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make to unmute you, and you can ask the question yourself. Where is Joshua? Oh dear, here we go. Hello, Mike. Okay, Joshua, please introduce yourself. Tell us what your startup or what you're working on, and then what the challenge is. The floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Take it away.
Perfect, thank you. So in a nutshell, I'm developing a product which is for grassroots football, for casual football players. The initial idea all came from personal pain points, which then when branched out and asked around other football groups at our venue, shared the same sort of issues, stuff like tracking payments, organising teams and stuff like that. So basically I've come to a point now where I've developed an app called Fiverside, which looks to address those pain points and not trying to sound too grandiose or go above myself. I've kind of took a little bit of a Microsoft approach, sort of bringing a few features into one app, like say such as the in-app payments, the chat features, the team randomization. It's all in one place now, whereas we were personally using 3 or 4 different apps just to do those things. So my question is, I've already got really good inroads initially. I've got a venue provider on board with 80 venues. We've got 2 official events going on in May, which is a full day event. But my question is I've done it a bit unconventionally, where I've gone, I think, beyond an MVP. I missed the middle of this talk, unfortunately. I caught the beginning where we were talking about MVPs, but I've gone a bit beyond that in the sense that it's in a position to go live, and I've actually took features out so it's not saturated from the off. But I'm wondering, how do I balance the features I've got now with it rolling out and not losing sort of like the early uptake or overloading users? Do I, even though the features are ready, some of them, do I take even more out so it's more of an MVP, or do I just go with the flow and release it as it is and see if that early uptake is what I'm hoping it is and people see the value without, like I say, taking it for granted?
I hear you. I hear you. Just before I pass you on to my experts, Josh, first and foremost, very well done on this. Secondly, if you reach out to me on LinkedIn, there's a company called Bowlers. I don't know if you know, there's two brothers, I think, that have set this up, and they've done a brilliant job at it. Maybe, although I don't know them that well, maybe there's something that they might be open in terms of cooperation or help. But in terms of your question, Josh, have you spoken to any of your users? The point I'm trying to make here is what I would do if I were in that position is focus on launching with the absolute minimum or minimal features that you need to get people to either sign up or pay you or whatever your aim for that launch is, if that makes sense. And also it depends on how much money and resources you've got. That's what I would focus on. But let's hear what the others here got to say. So let's start with Jennifer, then Mike, then Martin, then Jagdeep, please.
Hey, Josh. My inclination with that is a lot of what Anton was saying there, of course, that when you release it with the core basics in it, and yes, do a review with your audience as such once they're using it, and understand what else they'd like to see and what else you've got. Because these days, apps, we've become used to apps not just being bought outright. We're used to subscriptions now, and we're used to tiered apps. So, if it's just me and my friends, that will take probably the most basic level just for getting together and doing things. But if it's something that's more kind of club specific or at a larger scale, you might have like I don't know, bronze, silver, gold kind of levels where you'll introduce new features based on the tier that people have purchased. And you'll know by those features if there's something that's useful to a smaller group, or like say there's going to be different age groups that you'll have bigger numbers of people and such in as well. I'm going to make the assumption that it's for adults, so you don't have to allow for the way that, well, there's data regulation, of course, anyway, but with regards to children's data regulation then too. But yeah, that would be what I kind of do. Kind of look at your features like they're a catalog and see what do people need to be able to do first? What was the original purpose of the app? And then what are the add-ons in your catalog? If you choose not to charge for them, fine, throw them all in at a later stage, but there's the opportunity there to make it a tiered product, I think, if you're at that stage of release already.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Jenny. Yes, Mike.
Yeah, I think the thing that when you were talking through this, I would just want you to go and just get it in people's hands. You may have a bunch of features lined up, but likelihood is that they're all going to need tweaks in some form to actually be what your end users will want. And then the other part of this is kind of validating, okay, like what will people actually pay for it? Because ultimately you're going to need to start generating revenue so that you're not making it self-sustainable. So that you are making it self-sustainable. Yeah, I'd just get it out there, get it in people's hands, get the feedback, and be really close to the people actually using it, who are going to be the people that hopefully will pay for it too. Ideally, try to push them to payment as soon as possible as well. What can you do? What are the things that they need? And then with your extra features, yeah, maybe tiers, maybe they don't even need them. Yeah, until it's in their hands, you won't know.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mike. I think it's Martin next, isn't it? Martin?
Yes. So everything, like a lot of things have been said already. What you could look into is user testing platforms. So there's some online user testing platforms where you can like allow people to download the app, go through it. You give them sort of like things to do, and then you can see how they use the app, and they can give feedback. You can do this on platforms if you have like friends and family. You can start with them. But one of the things that is always very surprising to people is that if people download an app that they've never seen before and start using it, they have a lot more questions, a lot more things that like they don't understand or they want to get clarified than the original creators think. So it's always good to have like screen recordings or look over shoulders when somebody downloads the app and starts using it, and use that feedback to simplify. The best apps start very simple. They have onboarding wizards that explain more complex concepts, and features can always be added, but never fall for this like the next feature is going to be the killer feature, because unless everybody asks for something and you're obviously missing it, it's better to make a simpler solution first, understand the problem they have, and see if that solves it.
Thank you very much, Martin. Last but not least, Jagdeep.
Yeah, just kind of echoing what's been said earlier. I think if you look at the philosophy of an MVP, it's usually what's the minimum thing that's going to bring you money or start generating, tick boxes against particular KPIs that you have. So if you can include more features, the better. You can always reevaluate and strip out any features later once you've gone live. What I'd recommend, again, is to look at a focus group. In other words, a group that will give you a good feedback and is representative of your target audience. And then you can decide whether you're going to tweak things, remove things, add things, refine particular features and services that you have in the app. So yeah, that's all I've got to add. Thank you.
That is brilliant. That is pure gold from all four of you, and I really appreciate that. Hope you found that useful, Josh.
Incredibly so. Thank you all for that. That's fantastic.
You're very welcome. Do you have any quick follow-ups? Anything else, or you're kind of clear for now?
I think I'm clear for now. Definitely a few things to consider, especially on my approach to the revenue. I hadn't considered tiered things. I initially actually withdrew sort of ad revenue, and it was very much hoping the users found the value in the features, which would generate some platform fees, was my approach. But I will definitely look into all of my options and get this feedback from the user groups, which thankfully I have 2 groups this week, so that's perfect.
That's brilliant. And by the way, in terms of that revenue and user acquisition, on Wednesdays, that's tomorrow, 12 to 1 o'clock, we run our room on growth. And if you've got any sort of questions on that, please feel free to join us there. You can RSVP to the room via our site, or when you go to our site, if you join our WhatsApp group, I'll be posting the link tomorrow for that room if you've got time to join us, and would be more than happy to go into detail on that front for you.
I will see you there.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Right, we've only got 11 minutes to go. So a quick reset of the conversation, and then we'll go to one last question, I guess. This is Startup Product and Tech Q&A. We do this every Tuesday from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time to help founders with whatever questions you may have as you build your early stage product or tech. And those questions can be on anything, so there's no need to be shy. There are no wrong or right questions for that matter. You could ask us, let's say, about your product roadmap, your design, your prototype, your landing pages, your apps, other parts of your website, automation, testing, launching your MVP, and anything and everything in between or beyond for that matter. If you're tuning in via YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn, unfortunately, we're unable to monitor your questions there. But do click on the link that I've posted on all those platforms that takes you straight onto Microsoft Teams. It's a quick registration, And here you'll be able to ask us, it's live audio, by the way, but you'll be able to ask us questions. If you're on Microsoft Teams and you've got a question, please post it in the chat first, and then just like we did with Josh now, then I'll unmute you and you have the floor to ask our panelists. We ran a few other conversations. Monday's talent, obviously, as you saw today, product and tech on Tuesdays, growth on Wednesdays, and fundraising on Thursdays. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. We also run 2 monthly sessions, legal on the second Friday of each month, and finances on the third Friday of each month. And you can RSVP to those via our website, startup to scaleup.club. And actually, probably the best thing to do is when you go there, click on the WhatsApp icon there and join our WhatsApp group. That way, you'll get alerts for all future rooms. Now, I'm going to post a question that was sent in to us, but I read it out loud for the other platforms that are tuning in, and the panelists that are here on Microsoft Teams, they can read it in the chat. So our fintech platform in London provides real-time stock market data, but users have complained about delays in data updates impacting their trading decisions. We're at pre-Series A, which I'm assuming she means that they're about to go for Series A, and need to optimize our code for low latency to improve user experience. Could you provide guidance on restructuring our code to minimize latency, especially for high frequency data updates, and would moving certain processes closer to the database or leveraging in memory caching help achieve our performance goals? Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm not even going to attempt, but I think I'm going to start with Jagdeep, then Mike, then Jennifer, and then Martin, please. Jagdeep, what's your thoughts on this?
I think Jagdeep had to hop off, so I think you got to go to Mike.
I see. I didn't even see that. Okay,
No
I'm
worries.
sorry. I think we said Mike, didn't we? So Mike, Jennifer, and then Martin.
Sorry, I'm just rereading this question just to make sure I'm getting the full picture.
I can go while you're reading it if you like, Mike.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
No worries. Yeah, it's a pretty, like, it looks like they know what they're talking about to some extent, because even asking the question is quite technical. So they probably have some ideas already about what it is that they want to do, but it's just about where to start. And I always tend to go straight to the solutions, add more processing data, make sure that you've got your data in the locations that your customers are using it. If it's if the fintech platform's in London and your customers are all in London, then that makes it a little bit easier to load balance your such stuff. But actually, because the data is not global, and that makes it a little bit easier to troubleshoot almost. And what you need to be doing really is have a look at it and do some bottleneck analysis. So find out, is it certain times of the day? Is it certain users? Is it, where are the issues happening? Is it certain parts of the database as such first? I mean, there's going to be hotspots. Anything that's being used, there's always going to be times of the day where it's using the most processes or energy, whatever you want to put it. So have a look and see if you can identify where that is. You can use there's a bunch of tools that you can use for it and such, but what you want to do is then try and optimize the paths that are being used the most as such. So you'll have to have a look at your data structures and see how you can make them more efficient in order to do that. But coming at it with a blanket approach may not necessarily be the best way to do it, because you could be embracing new data structures for everything and find that there's actually 5% of your database at the hours of 4 to 5 p.m. US time, so whatever that is here, lunchtime. That's when it all starts to go walk. So then what you need to do is really just improve the structures and allow more resources at the time, improve the structures on the data that's being accessed at that time. Otherwise, what you're going to end up doing is incorporating a whole lot of cost, applying it to everything. And if you continue to do things like the bottleneck analysis on a regular basis, then you will learn the patterns of behavior of both your customers and your database and be able to preemptively apply those kind of solutions in the future. you have them in place for one, it's often a rinse and repeat approach from there, but at least then you can know what you've got to do the second time around. It's always the first one that teaches us the lessons. With that, then hopefully Mike's good to go.
Yeah, I'll kind of expand on that. I think everything you said there is the biggest thing here. It's all about the analysis right now, to identify how can you make the biggest leaps with the minimal amount of moves. Essentially, sometimes moving stuff closer to databases can obviously speed things up, but equally, it's very much dependent on what is happening with the data too. If you're doing a lot of like restructure of data as you're actually pulling it from a database, think about that. But the biggest key here is the analysis to understand where and what the problems are being caused. Is it an API level? Is it a transformation level? Is it an infrastructure level? Actually delivering it to your customers. How real time is it as well? Sometimes, real time isn't actually real time. Certain data points on the stock market don't change in real time. They're actually very static. So think about how you can split that as well, potentially over time. But do it step by step and get stuff live, get feedback from analysis and logs of how things are moving in a positive direction. Yeah, I think that's all I've got for now.
Thank you very much, Mike. We'll go on to Martin now. And by the way, for those of you that have listened to this, if you found any value in it, whether you're tuning in via LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, please do share this. We need all the help we can get. Last but not least, Martin.
Yeah, so look, bring the data closer to customers. So if like you have American customers and you're in England, those type of things were already discussed. They ask in memory, so things like Redis and other things could be used, but that is especially if like lots of queries are done around like data. But what I'm understanding here, it's real-time market data. So caching could actually mean that you're going to make it worse, because you might not have like updated the caches, and then like you might be giving the wrong data. The streaming platforms that might be better fit for this type of thing. So if really it's all about like continuously updating data and letting your customers know instead of them coming to query, it might be better to send the updates to them through sort of like streaming, which could be a way of doing it. Also, if it's like real-time analytics, you might want to look at like a columnar storage type of system. So because they're more typically used for like analytics queries and so on. So, but there's a lot of like real-time databases. It's again like there's a whole range of solutions possible. We just need to understand what has been tried, what's really needed from a customer perspective, and so on.
Yeah. Well, obviously everything that Jennifer, Mike, and Martin said, because this is pretty much all great to me. However, we are now 1 minute before closing time. So I guess some parting words would be nice if my brilliant panel has got time. So let's perhaps first go to the lady of the house, and then Mike, and then Martin, please.
I think from doing a few of these now, that the things that are recurring lessons to learn is such as always know your customer base and have those people to test things with. Spend as little money as possible and do your research about who's already doing what you've got. And yeah, when things don't look like they're working right, then get heavily stuck into your troubleshooting and understand what's wrong. But the most important part really is that if you've got a resource like this one, hop on, ask the questions, and it's costing you nothing other than a few minutes of your time. And you might as well use it, because I know every time I do it, I learn something from the guys that are on it. There's never a loss of time here.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Jennifer. Who was next? Was it Martin? Yes, go ahead, Martin.
Yeah, so in general, I think Jennifer's right that like there's two type of questions. One is about like what should I do initially? Well, Jennifer already said it, like understand the customer problems, work with them, very quickly make like minimum viable products that are very embarrassing at first, but it's all about learning and quickly doing things. And then we get to the second type of questions where like, hey, we found product market fit, we now all of a sudden see a lot of like scalability problems. Then again, work with experts because often that MVP infrastructure needs to be reviewed. But now you actually know what you're looking for. You know what customers want and how to do it. So there's experts there that can definitely help you then define a better architecture for that.
Thank you very much, Martin. Yes, Mike.
Yeah, mirroring what's been said, really. Surround yourself with your customers and learn as much as possible before you develop, if possible. And then the other is also surround yourself with entrepreneurs, because there are a lot of people who've done exactly the same as you that can help you with different directions of where you're going. And equally, if anyone does want to reach out, feel free to reach out.
It's brilliant, Bolt. Huge thanks to the three of you that are here, as well as to Jagdeep that had to leave earlier. I'm really grateful for your help. I've said this before, we've had 270,000 people tune into these sessions where we've helped over 1,500 founders for free, and none of that would have been possible without people like Jennifer, Martin, and Mike. So thank you for your support. As far as the listeners are concerned, please feel free to follow them or connect with them on LinkedIn. On the other hand, just a quick reminder, we run 6 regular rooms, 4 weekly and 2 monthly. Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, and Thursday's fundraising. And then the second Friday of each month, we run a legal Q&A, and that is on UK startup law. And the third Friday of each month, it's a finances Q&A. Again, that is mainly focused onto the UK market, but I guess some lessons there could be for the international startup ecosystem too. As I said, they're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. You can RSVP to any of them via our site, startup.scaleup.club. And perhaps the best thing you can do there is to click on the WhatsApp icon. And if you join that group, you'll get alerts for all future rooms. As far as my parting words are concerned, just remember the startup journey can be both exciting, but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime and be kind to yourself and everyone else for that matter too. Otherwise, hopefully see you tomorrow for Startup Growth, and God bless you all. Bye-bye for now.